My name is Sierra. I am 29 years old, and for most of my life, I believed betrayal was loud. I thought it came with shouting, accusations, dramatic confrontations that left no room for doubt. I believed if someone intended to destroy something sacred, they would at least have the courage to do it openly. I was wrong. In my life, betrayal arrived quietly. It arrived in ink, in paperwork, in a signature that looked like mine but wasn't. Before deployment, my life was simple, structured, predictable. I owned a small house my grandmother had left to me, a modest place, nothing luxurious, but it was stable, real, mine. It represented something deeper than property. It was proof that at least one person in my family had seen me clearly and trusted me completely. When deployment orders came, I prepared carefully. Utilities arranged, mail forwarded, legal documents secured, everything in its place, waiting for my return. Or so I thought. 3 months into deployment, I received a notification from my bank. Not a warning, not a question, a confirmation. A large transfer had been processed related to a property transaction in my name. At first, I assumed it was a mistake, a clerical error, a system glitch. But confusion has a physical sensation. It tightens your chest. It whispers that something irreversible has already happened. I contacted the bank. They confirmed the sale of my house. Sold. Legally transferred. Funds distributed. I remember sitting on the edge of my bunk, staring at the screen, waiting for reality to correct itself. It didn't. The buyer had documentation. The transfer included authorization forms, and every form carried my signature, my name written in familiar curves, my identity reproduced with unsettling accuracy. There was only one problem. I had never signed anything. I called home. My father answered with a calmness that felt rehearsed. He explained everything in the tone people use when they believe justification replaces permission. They had sold the house. They needed the money. Family emergencies, financial pressure, necessary decisions. And the signature? He called it a formality. He said I would have agreed anyway. He said distance made communication difficult. He said they had acted in my best interest. He never asked if it was true. The conversation ended not with shouting, but with something worse, assumption. They believed my absence meant silence, and silence meant consent. For weeks, I said nothing, not because I was powerless, but because power sometimes requires patience. While deployed, I began collecting information, transaction records, document copies, timeline verification, witness statements. Everything was handled quietly, methodically, without emotion, because emotion does not undo ink. When my deployment ended, my family expected a conversation, an emotional reunion, an opportunity to explain. Instead, I filed a legal complaint. The hearing was scheduled 2 months later. Walking into that courtroom, I saw the same expressions I had seen my entire life. Confidence, authority, certainty. My father sat upright, composed, as though this was an inconvenience rather than a reckoning. My mother avoided my eyes entirely. They looked like people expecting negotiation, not consequences. The proceedings began with documentation review, property transfer forms, authorization statements, signature verification reports. Everything appeared legitimate. That was the illusion they trusted. Then my attorney presented the detail they had overlooked. Not dramatic, not emotional, just factual. The documents authorizing the sale had been notarized in person, on a specific date, at a specific time, at a specific location, a legal requirement for identity confirmation. And on that exact date, I was deployed overseas. Military records confirmed my location thousands of miles away. The courtroom became very quiet. Forgery alone is serious, but impersonation in a notarized transaction transforms wrongdoing into something else entirely: intent, premeditation, fraud that cannot hide behind misunderstanding. The judge asked a simple question: how did the defendant verify identity if the owner was not present? No one answered, because there was no answer. My father's confidence dissolved gradually, not shattered, drained. Certainty left him in visible stages, like air escaping from something that had been inflated too long. The ruling came without drama. The sale was unlawful, the transaction invalid, restitution ordered, additional legal consequences imposed. The house could not be returned. It had already changed ownership legally through corrective proceedings, but financial restitution, penalties, and damages were enforced in full. Justice, when it arrived, did not feel victorious. It felt heavy, precise, final. Outside the courtroom, my mother approached me first. Her voice trembled. She spoke about family mistakes, pressure, misunderstanding. But some actions cannot be softened by language. Forgery is not confusion. Impersonation is not care. Control is not protection. My father did not speak to me at all. He stood apart, smaller somehow, not physically but in presence. For the first time in my life, he looked like a man confronting reality instead of defining it. People often ask what hurt the most. It wasn't the house. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even the forgery. It was the assumption. They believed my rights disappeared when I wasn't physically present to defend them. They believed silence meant surrender. They were wrong. The legal detail they forgot was simple. Presence can be proven, truth can be documented, and absence does not erase ownership. What changed me most was not the ruling. It was the realization that justice is rarely loud. It does not shout. It does not perform. It records. It verifies. It waits. And when it speaks, it does not argue. It concludes. My relationship with my family never recovered. Some fractures do not heal because healing requires acknowledgement, not explanation. But I did regain something more important than property: clarity, boundaries, and the understanding that dignity does not depend on permission from those who violate it. If you have ever been told to stay quiet, to avoid conflict, to accept wrongdoing in the name of peace, remember this: peace that requires your silence is not peace. It is convenience for someone else. And truth does not need noise to be powerful. Sometimes it only needs one overlooked detail. That's how my story ended. Not with shouting, not with reconciliation, but with a record that could not be denied. And sometimes that's enough.